Welcome to the WET Podcast, episode number 9. This is the WET Podcast. This is episode number 9 for October 31st, 2014. Happy Halloween for those of you in North America or wherever else they celebrate Halloween. I'm not really sure about that. So, that last is Ashley Carlson. She's going to be my guest today. Just some quick stuff before I do that. This is, like I said, episode 9 of the WET Podcast, Writing, Education, and Technology. You can find the show notes at ericmarshall.net/wet. That's Eric with a K, Marshall with 2 L's, .net/wet. I will be posting the video for this podcast as well, which is really super exciting. And you can find us on iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff. My Twitter handle is emarsh. You know the rest. So we're going to jump right into the interview today because I don't have a whole lot of intro stuff. So hi, Ashley.
Hello.
So Ashley you're a fantasy writer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Right now.
Right now, right.
It might change, I might go branch off, but at this point, yes, fantasy writer.
Great. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was I was looking for somebody who has succeeded at National Novel Writing Month. For those who don't know, November is National Novel Writing Month. It's an annual challenge to write 50,000 words towards a novel, all in the month of November. And I've tried and failed several times now, which we can talk about later. But Ashley actually has succeeded, and the reason that I invited Ashley on is because just yesterday you tweeted out that National Novel Writing Month NaNoWriMo, as people call it, has changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start there. Tell me about that.
Definitely. So last year, 2013, obviously, I found this website called Wattpad that I had never heard of before, and it was kind of a way to share your story as you're writing it. And they were doing a contest where people who wrote in the month of November and submitted their story were put into a drawing to win a couple $1,000. Wow. So and that wasn't really what got my attention. It was more of like the challenge, and I thought, okay, it's cool that people are going to be reading this as I'm writing it, and it was, obviously the perfect time, the start of November. So I actually pulled out a manuscript that I'd been tinkering on for, a year, and just kind of had put to the side, as I usually did with my writing, because I was just so tired, from working full time, and, I wasn't making writing a priority. So when NaNoWriMo came around, I thought, I'm going to try to enter this contest, and I'm going to pull out this manuscript and, try to bang out the 50,000 words for it. And it just really taught me how to set aside time for writing, not finding excuses. I'm tired, I have to make dinner, I have to go, I want to go hang out with friends. When you're working full time, it's really making writing a priority, and it's like having another job. So I think that's why so many people get stuck in that little area where they're like, I really want to write, I have all these ideas, but I'm just so tired. And it's like, well, you have to look at it like, like working out, like exercise. It's not necessarily something as easy or simple as sitting down and watching a TV show. You have to put in some effort. But if that's what you want to do to reach your goal, it's, the same thing as like getting in shape, losing weight, eating healthier. You have to be disciplined. And I do think that NaNoWriMo was that chance for me to really say, okay, I need to get disciplined here. I need to write, 2,000 or 2,500 words a day to write 50,000 words in 30 days. So it gives you kind of an end point. It gives you more of an outline to follow, so you can say, okay, I can get to this goal, a daily goal, then a weekly goal, then a monthly goal. I think a lot of people need that, because if it's just kind of like floating in the air, like how much do I do, when do I do it, it's kind of whenever I want. then a lot of times it's never going to happen. And that's
Mhm.
how I was for a couple years.
Yeah, if you wait until you have time, November goes by, December goes by, next thing you know, you're older and it's a year
That's
later
when I
and
have time.
yeah, right.
I mean,
Right.
as once I became disciplined, it was like what work, exercising. I had to say every night after a long day at work, I would not make dinner, or I would do something really easy, and then I would spend the next 2 hours getting my word count for the day. And
Wow.
the reason why I say it changed my life is because I started really working on a serious story. It was like the first novel I really wrote. I got past, the first 10 pages, and I started to realize not only that I could do it, like it is possible I can write a novel, but also that I loved it. Like I was
Mhm.
just so absorbed with the story, and I was like, what is this, this amazing feeling of just being lost in my imagination. And I had never gotten that far before. So that's why I say NaNoWriMo really changed my life, because after that, I changed careers. I stopped pursuing psychology, and
Uh,
I was like, I want to be an author. So it changed my life. I mean, and here I am a year later, and I wrote a book, and I'm releasing it in a month. So it really did change my life.
Wow. So did you write it on Wattpad, like in public?
The NaNoWriMo story I did, and I did post it. I posted, like the chapters, and it was because I was so new. It was a first draft, and going back, I realized I shouldn't have been sharing that with the public if I thought that it was so amazing. Now that I am, to the point where I've done 4 drafts of a novel, I can recognize that a first draft is basically like a word vomit, blah, like everything you think of. There's no cohesion, there's typos, it's just, and that's how it should be. But yeah, I did post it, and I got some good feedback, and I met some really awesome writers. That's how I first started meeting writers in the community, was through Wattpad. And then I ended up taking that story down because, I want it to be something I'm proud of when I'm posting my writing. But I met some really great people, and it was, like I said, the first introduction I had to this writing community, and really thinking maybe this is something I want to do as a career, not just for fun.
That is awesome. Wattpad is interesting. I have a Wattpad account. I've never done anything on it. I can't quite wrap my head around it. I know it has this kind of reputation for being more for like young adult stuff, which I
Oh,
know is not.
it really, at least from what I've seen, I mean, I'm sorry, I feel like I kind of interrupted you, but yes,
Okay.
most of the stories I've seen were about, like they were kind of fan fiction, and that's totally okay. It's just it's not necessarily your audience, and that's what I realized, because I thought maybe my work is terrible, but I was reading, I was seeing what else was on there and what was doing really well, and I was like, okay, this isn't that's not my audience. I'm looking for an older audience, not a fan fiction about One Direction. So that's what seemed to be most popular. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. I just heard on the I don't know if you listen to the Sell More Books podcast. If you don't, you should. But they were a news item about somebody who just got a big, like some kind of publishing deal because of her One Direction fan fiction.
Really?
Yeah, from Wattpad. Yeah, it was crazy. It was like 2 weeks
Well,
ago.
I mean, that I can see. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey, that was fan fiction when it got
Yeah.
started. And I
Yep.
think, if you have the gift and the talent, you're kind of using those, that subject matter, and it's already a beloved subject matter. So a lot of times it can be very successful.
Yeah.
But
It's
that is
just, but
kind of,
it's not your thing, and it's not my thing, right?
no, no, no,
Right. Right.
not my thing.
Well, that's interesting. And you met some interesting people, and then you took that down. You've gone through several drafts now, and then you're ready to release it in December, right?
Yeah, this is actually a new novel. So the one I worked on
Oh, okay.
last year, that was what sparked my inspiration, sparked my love. And I was like, this is something I really want to do. But what I ended up finding out was, another important thing is when you become tired of a story, if you take too long, like in Stephen King's On Writing, he says you want to write a first draft no longer than 3 months, because you spend time with that story and you can it becomes stale in your mind. And what I did for NaNoWriMo, as much as it was exciting to me when I really buckled down and wrote the 50,000 words for it, the story had been in my brain, and it had been kind of sitting on my computer already for about a year and a half. And I just I wanted something new and fresh. So I wrote a short story that was in February of this, so about a month and a half later, I got the writing bug. So I wrote this dystopian short story, published that on Amazon, and that was also a great learning experience. I have a couple posts on my website about, just what I learned, how to post online, how to put your stuff on Amazon, how to format it, that sort of thing. And then this summer, I had an idea for a new novel, and I wrote the first draft in 2 months, and then that's what I'm releasing now after I've done 4 drafts of it. So
Oh, okay.
I'm waiting to get it back from my editor right now, and then I will do one more final draft, so that'll make 5 drafts, and then it will go up December 13th, which is my birthday. So
Yay.
very important birthday. I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
how is my birthday ever going to top this? Like my debut novel released on this birthday. So.
Well, you're gonna have to release a novel on every birthday.
Exactly. Yeah, I could do that. That's a really good idea.
And everybody will know. That's great. And so, what is the? So you released a dystopian short story, you said,
Yeah,
and
that's
you put it up
cool.
on.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
did that. That was a kind of a great learning experience too, because that was the first piece of work that I actually finished. That was my, so I did NaNoWriMo last year, and that was my first experience into writing a long piece of work, and being like, realizing I can write this, I can go the distance, if you want to say that. So then Cruel was my experience in writing numerous drafts, and I actually did send Cruel to a couple beta readers. So that was my first experience with beta readers. So it was what I liked about it was short story, basically taught me everything I would need to know for writing and publishing a full book, but I didn't have to wait 6 months to get it to fruition. So with the short story, Cruel took me about a month and a half, to write it and edit it, send it out to beta readers, revise it. So that's what I did, in February and March, and then by the summer, I was ready to start working on the full-length novel. I felt that I was able to complete a story and have it cohesive and have it be something that I had, finished and was proud of the finished product. It felt like it was possible. Before, I always thought, I can never write a whole book. I can't even wrap my mind around that. How do you do it? How do you fit all the pieces together and make it all make sense and be something that people love? It was the most daunting thing to me, until I did it myself with Cruel. And then I was like, okay, I can do this with a full-length novel. So just baby steps. I encourage everyone to do that. Just do it. Do a poem, do a short story, do a novella. If that's what you need to do to realize that you can complete a full-length novel, it's possible, then that's what people should do. So it's not as a huge mountain that you have to climb until you can climb, the smaller mountain.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one of the great things about indie publishing as well, is that you can publish any length you want. No one's telling you have to hit a certain length for whatever. You
Absolutely.
just, right?
It's so much more freedom. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a million things I want to ask you about, actually. So,
Sorry, and I talk a lot too, so
oh, that's great. So, um, let's talk about what your novel's about, and then I want to circle back to the beta reader thing.
okay,
So,
sounds great.
what is your novel that's coming out December 13th about?
Okay, So it is a young adult fantasy novel, and it has steampunk elements, and I say that it's has those elements, but it's not maybe a fully immersive steampunk novel because ultimately I wanted my book to be about relationships and be about finding confidence within yourself, finding love within yourself. I wanted it to be about, I'm sorry, finding love outside of yourself, but to be about the characters. And the steampunk element is mostly the Victorian science fiction. So there's some unique technologies that don't actually exist here in our world. There's kind of a Victorian theme with the clothing, and with they live in basically the elite, I can never say that word, aristocracy. They live in floating cities above the poor people. So the poor people, the peasants, so to speak. So it has that theme of a different time, almost of a medieval time. They live in, the leaders of the aristocracy live in palaces. So, just kind of everything that I've always loved. I loved thinking about royalty. I loved thinking about palaces. I loved magical creatures. Like I have, a circus troupe comes to the aristocracy. They're having a celebration, and there's a circus show, and there's magical creatures and people with unique abilities, and just basically it's a mashup of everything that I've always loved, those fantasy elements, and just cool clothing and those things, but that's not the important part. The important part is that my protagonist, she's a duchess, so she's not a princess, but she's in charge of, so to speak. She's really not given a lot of power, but she is kind of the monarch of this one city that she lives in. And it's the book basically starts with, we meet her and we see that her arranged marriage to her husband is just failed miserably. He despises her. He hates her. She doesn't know why. And it's as the book begins, that's a pivotal point for her. She's really struggling. She doesn't know what to do. She wants him to love her. And I kind of wanted to start off the book with a young woman who's struggling with the thoughts that I think a lot of young women struggle with, which are wanting to feel loved, wanting to feel accepted, and feeling that rejection. And basically, I'm sorry, my dog. Yeah. My dog's barking. She hears a car.
So we just had an interruption there. So you were saying that your book is it's kind of a steampunk novel with a young heroine who is struggling because she's trying to find love, basically, right? And she's a duchess.
Well, yes, she does. She wants to feel loved and accepted. What you end up finding out later is that she spent her youth kind of as an isolated child and wasn't nurtured. Her parents died when she was really young, and so she kind of lived in this, there's the phrase ivory tower, like just a very privileged life, but a very lonely life. Mm-hmm. But the thing that sets her apart is that she has an invisible companion. So he's an animal, but he can change form. His name is Roan. So my character, her name is Ambrose, Duchess Ambrose. So Ambrose has her companion, Roan, who's been her constant companion since she can remember, but nobody else can see him or hear him or interact with him. And she ends up, the whole part of the book, Mika, stop. I'm sorry. Okay. The whole part of the book is that she ends up finding out, why does she have this invisible companion? What does that mean? Why is her government having some sort of trials or exploration of the spiritual, supernatural realm that they have deemed illegal? So they've decreed that nobody could talk about it or think about it, this, a spiritual place, what is beyond this world. And she grew up thinking that was illegal and, you're not supposed to do that. So then she ends up finding out that her government actually is, attempting to contact this spiritual realm. And then the fact that she has an invisible companion means that she has a special sort of gift, and she ends up finding out how those two tie together.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So I'll read that.
Okay, cool. You'll get a free copy.
All right, awesome. I like. I've been getting into young adult lately, so I've been reading more and more of it. It's and that sounds fantastic. Literally, I guess, fantastic, but also
yeah, it is.
that was really, really good. So you got this great sounding book coming out on the 13th, and you've been a writer for about a year.
Yeah.
Right, which is crazy to me, which is amazing and awesome. So I want to circle back to your kind of methods, I guess you could say. So you did NaNoWriMo, you succeeded. That gave you the confidence to continue writing and gave you the kind of idea to be a writer, to be an author, basically, right? Literally changed your life, changed the whole trajectory of what you were doing, which is incredible to me. And then so you wrote a draft of a second novel, and you mentioned beta readers earlier, and I think the concept of a beta reader is familiar to a lot of my audience, but maybe not everybody. So I'd like to maybe talk about how did you go about getting beta reader? What is a beta reader? How did you go about getting them, and how do they fit into your process?
Okay, absolutely. So beta readers are essentially people who agree to read your draft of your novel before it's publishable. It could be at any stage. What I did was I wrote my first draft, which is, a mess. It's just, riddled with typos and kind of having to fit together the pieces of your novel, the scenes, and okay, what do I want to keep? What was kind of a tangent that doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't really have a place here in this book. So then you write your second draft, which is hopefully more cohesive, makes more sense. It is more of a novel that you can follow and make sense of and enjoy. So then I sent it out to the couple of people who I had met through Wattpad and through Twitter, another great way to meet writers. So I had been compiling a list of about 5 to 6 friends who, over the course of writing my first and second drafts, had said, I would love to read your novel when you're ready for critiques, or for a beta reader, somebody to give you their thoughts. So then I sent it out to my 6 people, I believe, who were friends of mine, and I gave them a timeline because I am on a strict deadline, and I said, I completely understand you're busy, but I'm hoping to get this back within the next 3 to 4 weeks. What I ended up doing is actually, because it was, full-length novel, I edited my book in thirds. So I did the first third in about 4 to 5 days, sent that out. I did the second third, sent that out. So I thought, okay, better to split it into chunks that are more easily digestible, and also hopefully to get responses more quickly. So I did that, got my responses back, and then when I had received most of my email responses, I compiled them into a document and printed it out. So then I had my hard copy to use while I went through my third draft with their thoughts, fixing things. Okay. The main things that I was told needed fixing were being more descriptive and detailed with my world building, because it is an alternate universe, and it has a lot of components of the floating city. People didn't understand that completely. I needed to be very detailed and descriptive about, how is it floating? Why is it floating? How much space is between them, where so the peasants live down on the bottom on the ground. It's a lot of details. So that was one thing that I mostly heard was a confusing aspect that I had to be more descriptive about. The other thing was some character development. So I received some feedback from some readers that said, I don't really understand why so-and-so did this, or I don't really know, what does this person look like, or tell me more about this person. What is their background? So I realized, I see these people in my head, so I see how they look, but that doesn't necessarily mean I translated it into the document. So,
Right.
I mean, their feedback, it is vital to writing a novel that is something that a lot of people are going to be able to read and enjoy and understand. I think that's what was the most important thing was, are people seeing and understanding what I see and understand? Because that's what you need to make sure of, that they are fully comprehending this world that you've created and that they enjoy it. Because if it's something that's confusing or missing something important about a character, you lose your readers because they don't identify.
So with these 6 beta readers, now you had them give you feedback directly. This was after your second draft, but before you went to a professional editor, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and they were obviously they understood that this was an unfinished work and you were looking for feedback.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Did you give them some? What's that?
I said major warnings in the beginning. Go. It's definitely nothing. It is not ready for publication yet. So yeah, warning.
Yeah. Yeah, right, exactly. And they knew that. Did you give them guidelines in terms of like you're probably looking for more story level and character level stuff than more? You didn't want like proofreading or anything like that.
No, exactly. Yeah. That is something that I made very clear. I do not want you nor need you to spend time fixing my typos. That is not your job, so to speak. I mostly want you to read it and enjoy it and tell me what parts you enjoyed the most, what parts you enjoyed the least, what characters you really liked, who did you identify with. Overall, fundamentally, did you enjoy this book and why or why not? And that's what I needed to know. So I made that very clear from the beginning.
That's perfect. And so each one of them gave you feedback individually, and then you found things that were common between them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That is, because, for instance, I heard that from one reader that my chapter names she would have preferred if they were a little more interesting, or she said they were a little generic. And, I spoke with the other 5, and no one else felt the same. So, right. With things like that, it's kind of, you do take it as with a grain of salt, or say, okay, I'll give that some thought, but if it's not a consensus among everyone, then it's a lot of time that's just their opinion. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. And these are all people you met on Wattpad and Twitter.
Correct. And also Facebook, I did post something on Facebook, and a lot of friends who were non-writer friends, they actually became interested in reading it. So I sent them out the 3rd draft. So after I had fixed a lot of the plot holes and the major issues, it was a pretty refined novel at that point. So I sent out my 3rd draft to the non-writer friends. So these are just readers of young adult novels. And, when I got the feedback from them, that was really special because a lot of people were saying how they loved it. They couldn't believe they knew the writer. I had a good friend who said she sent it to her family and was saying, that Ashley wrote this, and give it, it's just so it's so wonderful. So you're not getting as I guess constructive criticism in the sense of it's a writer who can look at it and say this part is doesn't make sense. It's more of you're getting that overall, these people are not as critical. So when they're not writers, they can just read it as a book they'd pick up from a bookstore. And that was helpful because then I really knew, okay, I have something here that people are really enjoying.
That's great.
And then also just if there was any confusion and they told me, I would realize, okay, I still need to tweak that. I need to be more descriptive with that with that world. But otherwise, it was great to just get some overall feedback from people. Liked it, loved it, didn't really like it. That was good too, just for confidence building.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I'm at the stage right now where I'm about to be soliciting beta readers for my memoir, and then in a couple, I don't know, maybe a month or two for my novel. I have a novel. It's a new adult novel. In fact,
Ooh.
I didn't realize it was a new adult novel until I wrote it and
That's
then
awesome.
rewrote it, and I was like, you know what, this is it just hit me. So I tweaked the style a bit to kind of fit what I consider to be new adult, and it's kind of a near future kind of real tech heavy kind of thing. But my thing about beta readers is I haven't solicited them yet, and my intention is to go to my list. I have an email list which is made up mostly of people who are the people I know, some of them,
Yeah.
people who are interested in writing in general. But I have a lot of people who came to my site. I have one particular post on my website that's really popular about how to defend your doctoral dissertation.
Uh-huh.
After I defended mine, I wrote this. A lot of people sign up to that on that page. So a lot of people who are have doctorates or getting doctorates or academics and stuff like that. And I think what I want to do, and tell me if this sounds right to you. I think what I want to do when I solicit beta readers, I think I want my beta readers to be people that I do not know personally.
Uh-huh.
You
I
know,
That's a good idea.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
Um,
I'm gonna put it out to my list first, and then maybe on Twitter and whatnot, and just say like that's one of the stipulations for the first round of beta readers, people that don't know me, because I think it would make me nervous, and I feel like they're gonna feel like they want to be nice, and I don't necessarily want people just to be nice, you know?
that was one of my first readers was actually my mom, and
Okay.
she read it. I didn't tell her, you need to read this. I had some other people who had given me feedback, but she said, no, I want to support you. I want to read it. And I said, okay, you can do that on one condition, and that's that you're completely honest with me, because I don't want you to give me sugarcoat. I want you to tell me the truth. And it's funny because she actually ended up being the person who was most honest with me about it and really pointed out something very pivotal to me, which was that I needed to build more on my main character, because she said, I don't feel like I care about this person enough. And that was so important to hear. And so I think that your audience, first you want it to be tailored to your audience. So if they're not if they're not new adult readers, let's say for your novel,
Right.
they might not be the person or the people you want to read it, just because they don't really know what it is, or what, they're not drawn to that genre.
Right.
But possibly if they're open to it, yes. So you do want to make sure it's the right audience. But if they are people then yeah, you have to say, please be honest with me. You're helping me more by being honest than
Right.
by being nice, because, if I'm going around thinking I have this wonderful piece of work and I'm going to share it with the world without tweaking it to make it that wonderful, then, that's a disservice to me ultimately for my product.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think that if that is something you don't think your friends or family would be able to do, or that it might create some tension, because it is a hard thing to hear criticism. When you create a book or a piece of art or anything, you build a car, that is something that you created. It's from your soul. I feel like it's from your heart and soul. And so when somebody doesn't see what you see, or they have something, maybe a constructive criticism, it can feel like a personal attack. And if that
Right.
is going to create some tension for you with your close friends or family, then yeah, I would definitely say stick with people you don't know, but just make sure that they are being upfront and honest with you about
Yeah.
it too. So, and the good thing about knowing people, if they're friends or family, is that you can usually have a better chance of being in contact with them. You can call them,
Right.
because the thing is, a lot of people say they're going to do stuff and they don't do it. And I totally understand. I get how busy everyone is. This is just adding one more piece of work onto their day. But you do want to make sure that your beta readers are people that you can count on, that they are going to follow up with you, because this is vital information. You need it, and you usually need it pretty quickly or with some sort of time frame in mind. And a lot of people, like I said, I had a ton of people on Facebook who said, yeah, send it to me. I would love to read it. And, I do it, but I don't count on hearing responses. I don't. And
Right.
that that's okay because then I feel like I don't get disappointed. But I go into it realizing people are so busy and they say they're going to do stuff and then they don't do it. So you do want to have a couple people who you can really count on. They are going to respond to you. And
Yeah.
if that's people you know or people you don't know, you really need to make sure that you can follow up with them, be in
Yeah,
contact.
that's great. I think I'll do what you did. Do the find people I don't necessarily know for the first round, and then maybe give it to people I know for the second round. Although there are two people now that I'm thinking about it that might be able to do some beta reading on that for the novel.
Yeah.
Memoir is a little harder because the memoir is harder because a lot of the people I know are actually in the memoir. So that's that's trickier.
Yeah.
But I'll work that out. I'll figure that. That's actually turned out to be harder to write than the novel. The memoir did, even though it's all true, because it's just so like it's so personal.
Oh, of
And
course. I'm sure.
yeah,
I
and I
mean,
want to write. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say a lot of people in therapy are encouraged to write journals and encouraged
Mhm.
to kind of go back and work through their past. And I'm not saying that, it's a form of therapy for a lot of
Yeah,
people but you are delving into some possible painful memories or just
yeah,
times in your life that can be nostalgic, they can be positive or they can be hard to go back to. So I totally
yeah,
get that.
yeah.
That's
It
not
was
strange at
it was
all.
very it was very therapeutic actually writing the writing the draft because there's so much. It's a draft of my. It's I'm sorry. It's a memoir of my time in graduate school and all kinds of stuff happened. During that time I got married, I got divorced, my dad died. There's all kinds of stuff
Oh
that, like you said, it was very therapeutic. But now I'm at the stage where going back to you mentioned Stephen King earlier, the whole like I wrote with the door closed,
yeah,
right? And now I
exactly.
have to write with the door open, and
Uh-huh.
it's like, what do I put in? What do I leave out? Whose names do I change? What identifying characteristics do I change? You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff about that I have to deal with as well. So,
that is a lot. That's a whole other animal right there.
yeah. Yeah, that's why it's been so difficult, and that's why the beta reader thing is a little tricky as well,
Yeah,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I would probably solicit people then that you don't know for the
Yeah.
memoir,
Yeah.
and hopefully they would be people that you can count on to respond. So
Yeah.
that's
I
just,
think that's I think that's what I think my list will be good for that because I think my list has a lot of people who would be interested
yeah,
in that. So,
absolutely. I think so too.
yeah. So,
Definitely.
and so I noticed you signed up for my list. Thank you
You're
for signing up for that, by the way. Um, so, speaking of Twitter and Facebook and social media, your online presence is really, really interesting to me. It's very compelling. You have a website at ashley.rcarlson.com. You seem to
Mhm.
be fairly active on Twitter. That's how I found you.
Yeah.
Was on Twitter because you had tweeted to
Better
the
Novel, Christine at Better Novel
yeah
Project. Yeah.
Yeah, Better Novel Project, and she retweeted your tweet. This was just yesterday, and that's how I contacted you. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing, Twitter and the internet. I just
It is.
it's so amazingly wonderful. So then, I was looking at your website, and you have a really really interesting mix of kind of how to kind of stuff, very practical and useful posts, how to handle criticism,
Create
things
space, how to
about
print something. Yeah.
yeah, your create space thing is very interesting. You have a YouTube video about that, but then sprinkled throughout that, you have thoughts you might have after becoming single, or why
Yeah.
why Jennifer Lawrence and I should be friends.
Yeah.
Great mix of personality and practicality in there. I really, really like it, and you've got a decent number of Twitter followers, and so I'm wondering, like, how did you? Was there a strategy there going in? Did you already have a blog, or did you start that when you decided to become an author? Was there a strategy like I'm going to be personal and practical, or was it just you, or what?
Good question. Okay, so I started my Twitter last year when I started doing NaNoWriMo. And when I first started it, I kind of found a couple of friends who were writers, and then I started friending their friends who were writers. So I did that for a couple weeks, and that was kind of what built my base of people I was following and enjoying their tweets and that sort of thing, and people seemed to reciprocate. As time went on, I was a little more not careful, but a little more selective about who I followed. Or I mean, and to me, it's like such a silly thing to be like, oh, who do I follow? Like, are you cool enough? Are you not cool enough? I have a hard time with that because I do feel like I want to be nice and supportive to everyone and would hope they feel the same. I mostly though tried to follow people who seemed to be tweeting things that were either funny or helpful, and be a person. That's the main thing I think that I don't like about Twitter or about really anything, is that when it becomes a spam thing for people and they just want to keep tweeting their links of their book or what have you.
Yeah.
That's hard for me because I want to know who you are as a person, and then I want to support your art. That's for me, like Ksenia Onska. So she's a very well-known indie writer, self-publisher. She has a wonderful blog. I found that, and she's a real person, and she's funny, and she has a great personality, and that's kind of what I went off of. I said, I want to be like that. I want to be open and honest about myself, and I want to be a real person. I want either what I put into this social media to either be something that's funny, bring some happiness or amusement to somebody's day, or is something that can be utilized. It's about writing, or it's about the publishing industry. I very rarely talk about, here's my post. Like I might tweet that a couple of times, but I really don't want to be spending a lot of time or energy bogging down people's Twitter feeds and just basically promote myself. I don't think that sends out a good message. You were mentioning my blog. The reason why I have a couple of different avenues, I do talk about the technical aspect of writing and self-publishing, but I also do try to be personal, and I talk about my relationship that ended this summer. I talk about, and I don't want to make it a journal. I don't want to be pouring out my heart and talking about my problems. I want to empower people, encourage people, share with people, this is what's going on with me, but this is how I've used it to get stronger, and I think that you can too. For like with my latest post about criticism, I talked about growing up and how I was very unpopular when I was younger, and I really wanted people to like me, and I was desperate for it, and I think that people could sense that, and so I tried to tie that in with being an author. You want to have a strong foundation in yourself and a confidence in yourself, because if you're sort of desperate for approval and you're just you're getting it from outside sources and you don't have it within yourself, then anytime you get some criticism or a bad review, or somebody doesn't read your work and you take it in so deeply, and that's, I think, detrimental in numerous ways. So like I said, I try to be personal and show people, I'm a regular girl. I don't know everything. I was a super nerdy person when I was growing up. I struggled with certain things, and I just want people to feel like they like me as a person, so that then they want to read my work and say, okay, I like Ashley Carlson. She seems like a nice girl. I don't know what her book's about, but I'm going to read it, or I'm going to check it out because she seems really funny and she seems really down to earth, and so I'm interested in what she's creating.
I think it'll work for you.
I
I
hope
think
so.
you do a really, really good job of that, because you're going to attract people who are interested in being authors themselves with your informational stuff, but then you're going to get people who just want to read your your musings, right? You know, because you have a
Yeah.
very good voice on your blog, and you do seem very down to earth and you know, well spoken, well written, whatever the word is. So I think that'll work. I think people will. My opinion is that people will want to read your novels and your
I
fiction
hope
because of
so.
that. I think you strike a good balance. I've had a blog for 7 years, and I don't. For a lot of time, it was very unpersonal. I was very careful to make it very academic, and it's only
Um,
recently that I've been branching out more on that. On Twitter, I'm very personal and very kind of human,
yeah.
and you know, like you, no one wants to be like, here, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. No one, I won't. I'll unfollow people who do that, and so will
I
you. Everyone
do
will,
too.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
why how I mean not that they should be all about enriching my life, but it's like, well, how why would I want to support you? I don't even feel like I know you. I feel like you're just like an automated spam.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't
a lot of times they are, I think.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
You know?
So
Yeah.
it's quite a deterrent for wanting to support their work because I don't feel that I know them and I don't know that I like them. If they're
Right.
not willing to show their personality and their honesty, then I don't feel very connected to them or
Right.
want or their work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure in what universe that works. That whole like buy my thing. Like you get these Twitter people. You get it. I get it. Following people, and their whole bio is like a link to their Amazon profile where you can buy their stuff. And you go on their tweets, and it's all like, "Hey, this is coming out. This is," and you're like, "Why do I care about this? I don't even know you."
Exactly.
And then they
Well,
unfollow you like 2 days later. You know?
yeah, you don't care, and that's
Right.
right. When you say, "Why do I care about this?" It's we don't care, and that's what I think is missing from those types of presence, online presence that they choose. Is why should we care? Tell us why we should care. Like for me, my two main things that I talk about are how much I love Jennifer Lawrence and how much I love animals, and those are the
Right.
two things that I think set me apart because I love animals. I post pictures of my animals and I try to kind of raise a little bit of awareness about animal shelters or animal organizations that need support. And then also, I'm really oddly and weirdly obsessed with Jennifer Lawrence, and I think we should be friends. So I talk about that because that's my personality. That's how I identify myself, and hope when people think about me, they think she's that weird girl who is probably stalking Jennifer Lawrence right now somewhere. Or also my other thing is that I'm usually like dating or on Tinder or like I talk about my silly, my silly things or being single. That's another thing that I hope people can laugh and enjoy me just being completely honest and upfront. I'm just a big dork and we're all, we all want to be loved and we all want to be in relationships that are successful and I like telling people about
Yeah.
my personal experiences and they can feel like, oh yeah, I've been there or I never want to be there or whatever. And I could just be like a real person. Being a real person, I think is so important. Just don't, don't be putting up these fronts or be this spam bot. Just be yourself and be kind. Don't be yourself if you're a mean person, but be be a different person if you're a mean person, but be a
That's
kind
hilarious.
person. Put positivity in the world. Be down to earth. And then I think too, if you make mistakes, like for instance, if I have like typos in my posts, or I maybe I put out something about my book and it doesn't sound exactly right or something, people are more forgiving because when you're just yourself and you say like, oh, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, and you're just honest with them, I think that's when you're going to get the best response. People will give you a little bit more leeway for that sort of thing, which is important in indie publishing because we all make lots of mistakes because we don't have a huge publishing house that is behind us to, smooth out all those wrinkles, behind the scenes.
Right.
We're doing
Yeah.
everything, and you're bound to make a mistake somewhere. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Or more than one, probably. But
oh
that's
yeah,
just that's just how it
lots,
goes. Yeah, yeah, lots and lots of mistakes. It's fun to make mistakes.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, very fun.
yeah,
That's how you learn. You learn from them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What is? Do you want to tell people your Twitter handle?
Absolutely. My Twitter handle is Ashley R. Carlson 1. And the same thing for Google Plus. It's Ashley R. Carlson. So I usually, like on my books, I go by Ashley R. Carlson. But Ashley Carlson works too. The main reason why I chose to put the middle initial in, is because Ashley Carlson is such a generic type name. A lot of people were named Ashley Carlson, so I wanted to buy my own domain, and I had to do the Ashley R. Carlson. And I know how important it is to have continuity. They say that try to have your name on your website or your Twitter. If you're trying to build that sort of brand, it's easier for people to find you if your name is what you use for these various social media outlets. So yes, Ashley R. Carlson 1 is my Twitter handle.
Okay, great, great. I'm going to tell you a quick story, but I know we have to get going. But
Oh,
when I registered my website, ericmarshall.net, about I don't know how long, 8, 9 years ago or something like that, ericmarshall.com had been available, and I procrastinated, and I was like, oh, I'll just get it later.
no.
I wanted .net anyway because like .com is like commercial, and I was an academic at the time, whatever. I was a
Yeah.
graduate student. And so I procrastinated. I finally went to do it, and someone had registered it that very same week, just a week before.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, oh, and it's like a thorn in my side because it's my name is spelled with a K, ERIK, right? So it was just not that common, but Marshall's a pretty common last name, right? So
Yeah.
this guy who registered it, he's in California. He's a kickboxer or some mixed martial artist or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he's had the same site up there for years now. Nothing has changed. He got married and he has like wedding photos, and that's all it is. But if you, it drives me nuts. But if
You're
you
like,
search
I want my handle or my website name. That's mine.
Right, exactly. But if you search for me, I've done a really good job of if you search for me on Google, I come up first.
Yeah.
Because I have more of an online presence, and spreading across Google Plus and Twitter and all this stuff, and I write in different venues and stuff like that. So it's no big deal. But it's one of those like sort of
No.
things.
It's funny. I actually was reading some tips by a very, very successful self-published author named Jamie McGuire, um, and she actually said that on her tips. She said, "Buy your domain name and do it ASAP because
Yeah.
if someone buys it, you will be sorry, or you might have to pay a lot more money to." Renew it, or what she was saying that, like, let's say you become more well known. Like, for instance, let's say I become well known, AshleyRCarlson.com. So let's say I don't renew my domain name in time and
Right.
somebody else buys it. So she said that people will do that. They will buy your domain name if you become somebody whose your name is known at all. If you don't renew your domain in time, someone else will buy it. And I was thinking, I've never thought of that before, but
Yeah.
it makes a lot
Yeah.
of
Make
sense.
sure.
So
Yeah, make sure you do that. Like at least the guy who got mine was a real person. But yeah, you have to make sure. Yeah, so politicians will do that. Like those people like George W. Bush, for example, had to buy up like George W. Bush sucks and George W. Bush, right? Because people buy those, so politicians will buy all those as well,
oh,
so
I
that
know.
people don't buy them. Isn't that
That is
funny?
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So every time a new social network comes online, I make sure I hit eMarsh. eMarsh is my Twitter handle, and so people just call me that in life. They're like, "Hey, eMarsh." So
I
I make
like it.
sure yeah, I do too. It's kind of like the J Lo thing. That's where it came
Uh-huh.
from, believe it or not. But so I make sure I get that every time I have a new social media thing. But yeah, that stuff's really important. In fact, I'm doing another kind of super secret project on it with a pen name,
Uh-huh.
and the first thing I do when choosing the pen name is that domain available,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to buy the domains for my pen names before I even write anything, just to make sure they're there, make
I
sure I
think that's
have
a
them.
good idea. Definitely.
And
Um, oh, I was gonna say pen names was something I thought about for a little while because I wrote some, a young adult novel. The Charismatics is coming out in a month. But I also was thinking about branching off into like erotica because I do like writing that, or like romance. And that's a really, really popular genre for ebooks, especially.
Yeah.
And I spoke with a couple people and did some research because I thought, well, should I keep, my same name, Ashley R. Carlson? Are people going to get confused? And well,
Yeah.
what I found online was that a lot of people said if you're an indie publisher, indie writer, you don't have to do that, or you could get rid of the middle initial. So I thought,
Right.
if I do branch out, I might just do, for my romance titles, go to Ashley Carlson. So I would
Right.
still have that online presence and that name, but yes, it would be you wanted to distinguish yourself
Right.
from two very different genres. But
Yeah.
the good thing about being an indie writer is that you don't have to please a traditional publisher. You
Right.
can kind of do whatever you want. So it's like if you want to keep your name, you can do that. It's
Yeah.
just is it what's the right thing to do? And
Right.
that, I think for everybody just depends on the situation.
I would say if you're doing young adult and erotica, you should probably at least have some like different author pages on
Oh,
Amazon, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
You don't
different
want
options.
some 13-year-old girl like, oh, I really love Ashley Carlson stuff. Let's see what this is. Whoa,
That's
right? You know.
You are absolutely right, and I'm not even sure if I will go into that, but it was just something I was considering. And
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy writing romance type, that sort of thing. And like I said, I know it's a very popular genre, so I thought,
Yeah.
while my novel it might be taking some time to gain some traction and to gain a readership, if I was to write a bunch of short stories that are romance or erotica, those might have an easier audience to reach, and then to actually generate some income, because that's pretty much my main focus right now is hopefully to be able to support myself as a writer full time, and
Right.
that means
Me too.
making revenue. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, this super secret project I just mentioned with the pen names may or may not be erotica. So,
I like that.
yeah.
May or
Because
may not.
yes, because like you said, it's that's a very popular genre that might get some revenue coming in, right? And it's
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah.
I did post, actually. I posted an intimate scene on my website. Because when I was writing my book, The Charismatics, before it was a young adult novel, I kind of wrote whatever I want. I let it
Yeah.
go where it went. And if it went to an intimate scene, I let it go there, because I was writing it for myself, the first draft. I was like, where do I want to go? What do I want to experience right now and have my characters experience? So as I, went, chopped it and fixed it, and I cut those scenes because I really realized I can gain a much broader audience by making this book a young adult.
Right.
But I did post one of my scenes on my website that was obviously quite graphic, and a lot of people said, they applauded me. They said that's really brave that you're sharing that, and good for you, and just shared some of their feedback. And I think that was a pivotal point for me, because it was taking a huge risk. I was sharing something
Yeah.
that it's a very private, intimate type thing, but I didn't want it to be something that people are ashamed of, or ashamed to read, or ashamed to enjoy. And I don't want to be ashamed to write it. So that's kind of
Mm.
why I struggle with, do I want to have a pen name? Because I think, well, I want to be proud of my work, but for instance, with you have an incredibly academic persona, and you need to maintain that. So a pen name makes a lot of sense for
Yeah.
that sort of situation, if that's what you're doing. I'm not saying that you are, but for a lot of people, they might be moms, they might be lawyers, they might be a doctor, they might be,
Right.
or they might just they don't want their family to know, and
Yeah.
that's completely understandable. But for
Yeah.
me, I was like, well, it's out there. I wrote it. I liked writing it. I hope you enjoy it, and there you go. So.
Yeah. If people weren't already convinced to go to your site, ashleyrcarlson.com, you're going to see a bunch of hits.
Yeah.
from the show notes tomorrow. That's hilarious. I didn't dig deep enough. I didn't see that one. That's great.
It's on the sidebar where it says my popular posts. I
Mhm.
think it's titled "When Our Characters Get Intimate." So
Okay.
I talked a little bit about, well, why did I write this scene, and what do I think sex scenes should include, and I think they should
Mhm.
include certain things, and just I talked about it, and then I just shared my scene. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it was really liberating. It was like, you know what, this is something I enjoyed writing, and I'm not ashamed. And give me your thoughts, and I hope you enjoy it too. Like, I don't think that intimacy is something people should be ashamed of to read. Obviously, 50 Shades of Grey, just exploded. There was this market for it, and it was something that I'm not saying that 50 Shades of Grey is fantastic writing or anything like
Right.
that, but I just think that it hopefully was changing the landscape of books and what they should include, and it's okay to include those moments. You feel like you understand your characters that much better when they're in those types of situations. So I think it's a good thing.
That's great. Yeah, I'll definitely read. I just pulled it up. I'm going to read that for sure.
Ah,
We've been talking for an hour, and it
okay.
doesn't even feel like it at all. This has been great. I have a last question or two. Are you doing NaNoWriMo this year?
I'm not, because I'm waiting to, well, I'm working on some freelance editing, so I'm editing some manuscripts right now.
Um,
And then also I'm waiting to get my book back from my editor, and I will do one final fifth draft of my book, and then I will be getting that formatted. So I hired Stuart Whitmore, I believe is his last name. He works for Crenal Publishing. So he's going to format my book, and then I have a cover designer, MS Corley. So he's going to be designing my cover. That's all going to be happening mid-November. So I will be, very busy
yeah,
making sure that the book looks amazing and fantastic, and it's something I'm proud of to share. So not unfortunately not this year. I hope next year I will be able to do that.
okay.
But
And
I plan on. Go ahead.
any tips for people who are doing it?
Any tips? Um, have a routine, and be very disciplined, and also don't expect that you're going to be able to live your daily life and your daily responsibilities this month. I mean, seriously, seriously, like, you know, go order something to go, order takeout, and uh, TiVo all your DVR all your TV shows. You're not going to be watching TV. You're not going to be eating, or you're not going to be cooking. You probably won't be showering. I mean,
Oh,
when I was writing, last year, and even when I was writing my novel this summer, I seriously didn't do anything but write for those allotted hours, uh,
hmm,
and because I mean, I could come up with a million excuses. I need to clean. I need to do laundry. I need to, feed my cat. No, you should definitely
yeah,
feed your cat,
yeah.
but you know, and I think that would be my main tips, is being disciplined, and also do not read what you wrote. Do not read it over again. That is the number one problem. Every time you read what you just wrote the night before, you're gonna hate it, and you're gonna want to change it, and that's gonna take you that much longer. Just keep writing. You know the story. It's inside of you. It's inside your heart, and just let it out. And when November is over, you've written a novel, and you can go back and you can spruce it up and polish it and make it something beautiful. But the only way you're ever going to be able to make something beautiful is if it exists. And the only way it's going to exist is if you just keep writing every single day. There you
That
go.
that is fantastic, Liz. Thank you so much. Great. I'm
You're
trying to
welcome.
decide whether I'm going to do it or not. I've tried before. Um, I have failed, but I mean, I don't mind failing because I still have like 25,000 words or 20,000 words of what's going to be the beginning of a pretty good novel,
Absolutely.
and I have another like 15,000 from 2 years ago that I might be able to make something of. It's totally fine. But it's, to break it down for those who don't know, it's 1,667 words per day every day of November. If you
Yeah.
miss a day, that goes up to like 1,800 or 1,700. If you miss 3 days, that goes up. It keeps going up. So,
Yes.
like you said, if you're serious about it, you need to put those hours aside, and that's what you do.
Hmm.
But
And I do actually have one other tip, and that's called word sprints. Are you familiar with those on Twitter?
word sprints?
Yeah.
No.
So this is something I did for my novel this summer. So on Twitter, the hashtag word sprints, it is when people on social media, Twitter mostly, they get together and you can just link in, if you put the hashtag in, look and see who else is doing it. And at certain intervals of time, they will do a word sprint, let's say to start at 5 p.m. So for 30 minutes, we're going to write for 30 minutes, and then you do that, and then you come back to them and say, I just wrote 1,000 words. So it's a way to give yourself an end point, a little bit of a competition, and you get to share it with people, and then you hold each other accountable. So you can say, I just banged out, 1,000 words in 20 minutes. Like that's a great way to get yourself to complete your daily word count. It
That's
changed
great.
my life. So good.
Changed your life. That is so great.
It
Good,
did.
good.
I mean, yeah, it was really
Little
helpful.
accountability. That's great.
It goes a
Well,
long way, that's for sure.
great. Well, I look forward to reading your book when it comes out, and when it does come out, I'll make sure I tweet it and put it in the show notes for this. Also, if people go to the show notes at ericmarshall.net/wet, this is episode 9. I'll have links to your website. I'll have links to your Twitter handle. And you mentioned some people whose blogs you read that I don't know. So if you could send me the links to those,
Absolutely, I will.
I'll put those in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
Uh, yeah, so people can find you, and like I said, I'll post the video for this as well, and you can do what you want with that. And
Yay.
then the audio will go up on the 31st, which is tomorrow.
Perfect.
This has been a lot of fun.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And thanks for listening to the WET Podcast. This is episode 9 with Ashley R. Carlson. You can find the show notes at ericmarshall.net/wet. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. See you next time.